We will begin the service with opening meditation. There are many different ways of living as a Buddhist. There are various teachings and practices, and not one deductive system, not one fixed creed. Whatever teaching or practice we encounter that leads us to appreciate the deep oneness of all things is Buddhism. Any viewpoint we adopt is Buddhistic if it loosens our sense of being separate and isolated, if it sensitizes us to the profound interconnectedness of all living things. This is from Reverend Gibbs, one of his essays, What is Buddhism?, in his book, Becoming Buddhists, Becoming Buddhas, and Liberating All Beings.
Hello. Don't forget your masks when you're out, but I'm recording here a good 40 feet away from Alan Goto, just the two of us today. We're going to chant Juseige for this service, and then I will provide a Dharma message. And please do listen reverently or join us for the chanting of the Juseige. This service is being prepared for April 25th of 2021 for the Pasadena Buddhist Temple. We rely upon the source of limitless wisdom and endless life. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. Busatsu Daimuryo Jukyo Juseige Gagon Cho Tegan Hishimu Jodo Shigan Hu Mandoku Tehujo Shogaku Gao Muryoko Uindai Seishu Hutai Sho Bingu Tehujo Shogaku Gashidyo Butendo Myosho Jippo Kukyo Mi Shomon Tehujo Shogaku Ryoku Jin Shonen Joeshu Bongyo Shigumu Jodo Isho Tenin Jinrikian Daiko Ushomu Daido Shoujo San Kumyo Kosaishu Yakunan Taihichi Eigen Meshi Kon Moan Hei Sokusho Akudo Tudaten Shumon Kosojo Mandoku Iolo Jippo Nichigaten Shujuki Tenko Onhugen Ishu Kai Hodo Koseku Dokuho Jo Dai Shuchu Seppo Shishiku Kuyo Ithayabuten Gu Sokushu Tokuhon Ganeshten Yoman Tokui Sangayo Nyobuten Mugechi Tudaten Mihusho Angaku Eriki Toshi Sai Shoson Shiganya Koka Daisen no Kando Koku Sho Tenin Tochin Myoke Namandabu, 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 Namandabu. Gani Shikudoku Byodo Sei Isai Don Monai Shin Onyo namandabu, 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 namanda. Namo Amida Butsu, Namandabutsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namandabutsu, Namandabutsu, Namandabutsu. We rely upon the source of limitless wisdom, light, and endless life. Namo Amida Butsu, Namandabutsu, Namandabutsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Well, again, good morning, and thank you for joining us. Our service here and Dharma talk are being recorded for the Pasadena Buddhist Temple to be broadcast April 25th of 2021. Now, the fundamental purpose of the Buddha Dharma is to guide us to a different way of seeing life, a more hopeful way of viewing our lives, more productive perspective. We're trying to take on a more productive, positive perspective on life. By looking at our lives differently, we come to be able to experience them in a more wholesome, peaceful, even pleasant way. Enjoying our lives in a more wholesome and peaceful way, we hope to be able to act better. Again, the purpose of Buddhism is to help us to have a different vision of life, a different vision of the world, and therefore a more stable and serene experience of our lives, and therefore we may be able to come to be able to act more effectively, more positively. These two dimensions of spiritual progress are crucial. Firstly, to come to experience our lives in a more optimistic, appreciative way. Any kind of genuine spirituality should help us to do this, to appreciate our lives in a more positive way. Also, genuine spiritual progress means to change how we act, to take action to change our world. This is necessary. As we record this, it was yesterday that a judge and jury brought back a verdict of guilty of murder against the Minneapolis police officer who had killed George Floyd while he had him in custody. There was a long process of political action and social protest that caused this change. Buddhism is not all about affirming ideas as being true. As a conservative kind of Protestant Christianity that's very widespread in this country, in the United States of America, and it emphasizes affirming doctrine. They say X is true, and you're supposed to say X is true, and that makes us all better. You know what those X's are, I won't go into that, but this is not our way. This is not the Buddhist way. Our way as Buddhists is not to talk all the time about what we think. So I will now proceed to talk about that for 10 more minutes or so. Talking is a large part of what I am paid to do. Talking has its place. Talking has its place in our lives, an important place. But in religious matters, in matters of the spirit, just as in other areas of our lives, talking becomes a problem when it's a substitute for something else. Talking is a problem when it is a substitute for acting. Now, I enjoy Shakespeare's plays, and I'm a fan of the play Hamlet, and people who don't look at Hamlet carefully think that Hamlet, the Shakespeare's Hamlet, was very indecisive and didn't act. That's not true at all. He was in a very complex situation. He wasn't sure what was going on, and as soon as he was very clear on what was going on, Hamlet acted very effectively, if you remember the play. He's sent off to be executed in England by his uncle. He breaks into the captain's office, the captain's cabin at night, breaks into the safe, removes the letter that Claudius has written saying, please execute Hamlet, replaces it with a letter that says, please execute Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, he jumps off the boat into a pirate ship. The guy is very dynamic. Hamlet acts when the time comes, but he doesn't act until he knows what to do, until he's sure what to do. Do you think I might meet Hamlet in my next life? In our daily lives, in our regular lives, in our work, in our hobbies, when someone says some guy is just talking words or is full of hot air, it means that they don't follow up on their words. Hamlet was the one who had the line, words, words, words. But it's words, words, words when there's no action, action, action. Nothing wrong with words when they lead to action. Nothing wrong with words when they lead to experiencing life differently, seeing life differently, and acting more effectively. These words are good words. But when it's only words, it is irritating. Do you ever have a job, you ever work someplace where the people were just constantly complaining about the workplace and the boss, but then when the boss comes into the work area, they're suddenly very quiet? I worked with a lot of people like that over the years, and sometimes 5 minutes later they're buttering him up. You got to be committed to change if you want change. In sports, when someone's all talk, it means that they go about their plans for the next sporting event, but they don't train, they don't prepare for it. Some of you know I'm a boxing fan. Currently, Anthony Joshua is telling everyone he's the heavyweight draw, he's the best heavyweight. I actually think that Deontay Wilder and Andy Reese are better, but boy, he talks a good game. Neither one of them talk as good of a fight as Anthony Joshua does. In politics, someone's all talk when they make promises that they don't work at keeping. Back in 2016, I think Donald J. Trump said he was going to provide a health plan for Americans. No one ever saw that health plan. That's just words, empty words. Words, words, words. Social movements can fizzle out. Social movements can temporarily or permanently fizzle out. Remember the Occupy movement? Well, it transformed into something else perhaps, but it seems to be gone, the Occupy movement. The Black Lives Matter movement has not fizzled out. The Justice for George Floyd movement has not fizzled out at all, has not disappeared. It just may be that we're seeing real change, real progress towards systemic change in our justice system. Back to the religious sphere. In the spiritual realm, in the religious sphere, someone is all talk when they affirm doctrine, insist on opinions, but they don't change. They don't change, and they don't change the world around them. And religious leaders are all talk when they lack spirituality, when they lack religious experience, when they lack reverence, when they lack the ability to perceive the sacred in life. To experience the world of sacred, to grasp life or aspects of life as sacred is the religious project. It is what any kind of real spirituality should lead to. Now, over the past 50 years, we've seen in this country Protestant Christianity has suffered a reaction against their talk. That reaction is called the evangelical movement, and it's called New Age religiosity. Both those kind of opposite movements in some ways. New Age spirituality often quite liberal, evangelicals often quite conservative, but they're both movements toward let's have some experience. What's all this talk about? What did you ever experience that was religious? There's a reason that these movements came up. They're both unstable movements, in my opinion. The evangelicals espouse outdated, literalistic ideas, but Protestant Christianity must find a way to embrace those two movements, New Age spirituality and evangelical spirituality, because they're talking about experiencing something that Protestants weren't experiencing. Even though Protestantism had spent 200 years trying to free itself of this excessive literalism, now they have to deal with New Age and evangelicals. In the mid-20th century, within our school, the Jodo Shinshu school of Mahayana Buddhism, there were some divergent movements that insisted on an experiential dimension. Sometimes they called it Goji Dawn or Shinjin Bumi. There was a group that developed in the mid-20th century called Shinran Kai. This is all lay people deliberately separating from ministers and having very weak relationships to any temples. And this became very strong in California. And in fact, in Fowler and Sacramento, these movements were large in the mid-20th century. Basically, it turned into talk, talk, talk. Words, words, words. I've got Shinjin. You do too, don't you? Oh, I don't know. Shinjin is another word for faithfully following the path. Shinjin is a moment of deep religious feeling that establishes a deep and abiding faith, a confidence, trust, and a loyalty. But it's not something to laud over others, and that's what this 20th century movement became. Shinjin Bumi, the Goji Dan, even the Shinran Kai seems to be a bit elitist. We got it, you don't. Everybody's got life. Life is what matters. Shinjin is a moment of reverence that leads to an ongoing living in confidence, trust, and loyalty. Those lay study groups that developed in the 20th century, still some of them are around, they had the same assumption as Shinran Kai, which is that this event of coming to faith must be conscious. But it probably isn't, for most of us. It probably takes place at a very deep pre-conscious level. Genuine faith does not exist only at the level of consciousness. Genuine faith is not a matter of our conscious experience so much. Shinjin and any genuine faith is a matter not of being sure, but of being confident. Authentic trust is something you discover whether you have or not, not something you decide to have. People who are very sure about their religious beliefs, people who are very sure about having a religious faith usually don't have it. What they have is complacent self-satisfaction. What most people in North America call religious faith is actually complacent self-satisfaction. Not a good thing at all. It's easy to be complacent and self-satisfied, and you don't need religion for that. Genuine faith, Shinjin, does not lead us to suppress differing perspectives. Let people think and feel as they will. Divergent movements within religious traditions reflect missing aspects, something that's needed. Protestant Christianity in the 20th century needed a more experiential dimension, and so did Jodo Shinshu Buddhism in Japan and in California, and things developed. Movements developed. Missing aspects, questions not clearly answered, these draw out divergent movements within a religious tradition. In Shinshu, in Jodo Shinshu, this Goji Dan or Shinran Kai or Shinjin Bumi stuff, but we got faith, we got Shinjin, it became a mutual admiration society, and it kind of died out because there's not much there. The question, these developments arose because people started asking, do I have a deep faith? Am I a person of Shinjin? Am I a person with trusting confidence in the vow? This can confuse people asking this kind of question, How do you know you have faith? Well, for one thing, you don't worry too much about what's going to happen when you die. And you will find some genuine underlying composure in your life if you're a person of Shinjin, a person of faith. But my answer to the question of, do I have Shinjin? Am I a person of faith? Who knows? Who knows? It doesn't matter. What matters is this teaching, this Nembutsu teaching, the teaching that there is a vow that picks us up and takes us where we need to go. There is a promise that will be fulfilled by the Buddha, by all the Buddhas. The promise of all the Buddhas, Hongan, the fundamental promise of Amida Buddha, is genuine. I am convinced that it's genuine. That conviction that it's genuine is real. Am I unwaveringly faithful? No, I don't know. I have moments I don't know. This brings us back to the question of why Buddhists don't insist that our doctrines and our beliefs are literally true. Ideas, beliefs, doctrines, these are all tools for us to see the world, hopefully to see the world more clearly and more deeply. Ideas, beliefs, doctrines. The point for us, the point for Buddhists isn't how very true they are. The point is to take a more wholesome perspective on our lives. The point is to have a happier, more composed experience of life. point is to do something to improve the world around us. Most schools of Christianity stress affirming doctrine, asserting beliefs, a lot more than Buddhists do. But there are the long-established schools of Christianity tend to be less pushy about it. The Catholics, the Lutherans, Episcopals, Presbyterians, Methodists, they're usually not inclined to insist that you must agree with them. Not in common conversation, not to me. And again, we Buddhists don't insist that we're right. We share tools for re-envisioning our lives. Jodo Shinshu is one of the storehouses of tools for re-envisioning our lives, seeing our lives differently. We offer activities like saying the Nembutsu aloud, Namo Amida Butsu. I rely upon the source of limitless wisdom and endless life. This is a tool. We have a perspective to share, that everyone is your family. We're all part of the same family. These tools that we share are there for those who want to share them with us. We have our Nenju that we use, the Buddhist correlate to the Christian rosary, the older Buddhist correlate to the Christian rosary. Now, other schools count how many times they say the Buddha's name. Namanda, Buddhamanda, Namandabu, Namandabu. We don't talk much about it in Jodo Shinshu, but we use the Nenju, the Ojuzu, the Buddhist rosary, to show reverence, and it's also, like Muslims use it, it kind of calms us and soothes us. That's okay to do that. Turn it over in your fingers. Each bead represents the saying of the Nembutsu. The Nembutsu is the presence of the Buddha, the presence of the vow to liberate all suffering and deluded beings. We have the Nenju, we have the Nembutsu, we have the sutras to chant. We have these tools to share with people who wish to share them. And I encourage you to share these with us. Share all of it if you will. Chanting the sutra, saying the Buddha's name, Namo Amida Butsu, holding the Nenju, feeling the beads in your hand. Share all this with us if you will. I don't insist that you agree with me. I only offer that these things that we have, perhaps you would like to share them. I hope you will come to reassess your world as a Buddhist, review your world, reformulate your view of the world as a Buddhist. May you and I come to experience the world as one. May you and I come to experience the world as one. I am hopeful that you and I can act more effectively in this world by seeing its unity. If we continually revive our viewing of life as deeply connected, interpenetrating oneness, perhaps we really can live better lives. Let me close on that thought. I hope we can all reformulate our view as Buddhists, re-experience the world as more complacent, more calm, more nurturing, more beautiful, and act all the more effectively in this world to help ourselves and to help others. I will close on that thought here, recording this, Alan Goto and I, for April 25th of 2021. In closing the Dharma message portion of our service, I will be saying the Buddha's name and ask those who wish to join me in Nembutsu for a little bit. We rely upon the source of limitless wisdom and endless life. Namo Amida Butsu, 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 Namo Amida Butsu. Thank you very much.
We will now end the service with a closing meditation. Thank you so much to all of you for viewing our service. It will be very short. Each morning, we are born again. What we do today is what matters most, the Buddha. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. Thank you very much.